That slaps.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to Still Slaps Music Reviews Throwback Edition. I'm Shuby, songwriter and rapper here for Still Slaps. Today, we are going to be taking a throwback review, a throwback look at why this album, Fall Out Boy, Take This to Your Grave, still slaps over 20-something years later. Guys, listen, this is actually really special to me because Fall Out Boy is definitely, they hold a special place in my heart. Pete Wentz, the lyricist for Fall Out Boy, has been one of my favorite songwriters slash lyricists for a long time now. I am very heavily influenced by a lot of just the poetry, the way Pete Wentz constructs a lot of his lyrics. I was always an admirer of that, even in his darkest moments with a lot of the highlights in Fall Out Boy's career. This album to me is such a such a perfect timestamp in Fall Out Boy's discography, and arguably could be debated as Fall Out Boy's greatest album. We're gonna kind of get into that. This album, first of all, this album has no bad tracks. This album is, I will consider it to be Fall Out Boy's perfect album. And simply because, and you can argue that this is a cop-out, but my argument is not really. Simply because this album all the way through is a perfect time capsule of just teenage nostalgia. This is in that emo punk type of sound. We were in that soundscape, and if you were young at this time, if you were in that teenage area and you heard this album was just a very straight shot of just perfect soundscape when you're talking about that vibe in that nature of what we considered to be the emo phase of pop music. And these guys really nailed it. Altogether, Patrick Stump, his vocals, I thought it was really I thought it was kind of cherishing how in certain areas of this album, Patrick Stump, his runs and his vocal ability when it came down to his performance was very much so it fell into that young type of energetic, just kind of, it didn't have to be perfect. The thing about this album is it definitely by no means sonically, when you heard these guys perform, if you were hearing them for the first time, you would by no means consider it to be an album where you felt like they were trying to land something in a perfect, polished manner. This album is very much kind of just really, it sounds like a bunch of friends that just got together and wanted to perform their best type of kind of more of like throwing stuff at the wall to see if it sticks, and if it does, who cares, and if it doesn't, who cares. It's just that type of attitude that was just there with Fall Out Boy at this particular time of this album. And it just so happens that they were able to get some of their best tracks out of it. When you're talking about tracks like Saturday, Grand Theft Autumn, Where's Your Boy, you're talking about Chicago is so 2 years ago. All of these tracks have some of the most iconic choruses that we heard earlier on in Fall Out Boy's career, and really you see that chemistry come to life. And just the fact that these guys were just getting together, and they were young, and they were just honestly just trying to write and trying to do what felt right. And you couldn't go wrong with that. It's just such a beautiful thing that this album has aged as well as it has, in that sense of nostalgic, atmospheric type of sound. And they really did nail it. Some of their best lyricism comes out on this thing. Like I said, everything is just wrapped in a bow of just teenage kind of like angst slash put it in that mood of, listen, we are young, we're unsure of where we're going, we have all these feelings that we're dealing with, and you can definitely put that and say that it's doesn't get any more perfectly imperfect than that. And it's just such a beautiful thing to be able to for Fall Out Boy to be able to go back and look at this, this album was released in May of this year, over 20 something years ago. So I definitely thought that it would be fitting to make this video, to make this review for you guys. I think that there's just not, you can't really look for the bad in this album. If you're listening to it now, I'm 26 years old, and listening back to this album, obviously it would be unfair for me to look at this album, to review this album from the perspective of a 20-something year old, because the fact of the matter is that this album was not made to be consumed from that type of advanced age type of outlook. This is clearly an album that was made to be time captured, in the sense of, listen, we are at that age point where we're unsure of everything, and it just feels like you're riding that wave of adolescence, and that's an important wave to go through. I think everybody can attest to having to go through those awkward phases and have a bunch of these songs where you're kind of just talking about getting over the storm that is teenage years. And I think that if you're able to do that well as artists as good as Fall Out Boy, you're able to really solidify yourself in that time where a lot of people needed that type of music. And this was definitely, for me, I heard this album when I was in high school. I heard it at the time that I needed to hear it. And by the time that I did hear it, the emo phase was definitely over, but it was considered to be still that kind of iconic phase where in music, where you had big acts like Fall Out Boy, MCR, you had the Panic at the Disco era, some of that going on, the Blue October. A lot of those bands were really solidifying themselves in that phase of, this is a stage that we are just really going to gung-ho and just really put some of our best material out there. And it really worked. It worked. And I think that, like I said, I would feel a way to just come on here and act like, you know, I can just talk down about this album, talk down about its flaws. Sure, I could say that some of the material is repetitive, some of the material comes off as whiny, but what would be the point in doing that? Like I said, this album was made clearly from a perspective of the teenage years and dealing with that, dealing with the uncertainty, dealing with the fears, dealing with the doubts, dealing with all of that. And you can't go into an album, like I said, being of age like I am, trying to review an album and criticize it for not sounding how you imagined it to sound in your late 20s. You know, you can't do that. It's just unfair to the artist. It's unfair to Fall Out Boy for what they tried to put in at this time, for what they were going for at this time. And yeah, you can honestly say that it is a classic in their discography, and it is their perfect album because it was pre-industry. They had kind of a output of just, we're just doing this just to have fun, and that's arguably one of the best reasons why you can do something. So I really do feel like this album definitely should be admired from that sense. Like I said, I will always have respect for Fall Out Boy, even in their later point in their career, where their sound changed dramatically. They went more for the pop music, kind of the EDM, sort of like mixing your sonics up with synthesizers and more of the computer type music. I don't think that they're to be looked down for. A lot of bands make that transition, and rightly so. You have to adapt with the times, and I feel like it's great for Fall Out Boy to have this kind of golden age in their careers, for their old fans to look back on. but at the same time to not get stuck in. You know, everybody makes that transition and everybody makes that evolution as an artist. So guys, I'm gonna need you to drop in a comment, drop a like below, share this review. How are you feeling with the anniversary of Fall Out Boy's Take This to Your Grave album? I didn't want to make this review too long because it just didn't need to be. This is what I consider to be Fall Out Boy's perfect album, and just strictly because they were able to, like I said, just capture that essence of emo pop, emo punk music very, very well. And I refuse to be the reviewer who goes in being a 26-year-old and trying to criticize it for what it was supposed to be. So guys, please let me know how you feel about this album if you're a Fall Out Boy fan. We've got a bunch of more reviews coming. I definitely do plan on reviewing a lot more advanced Fall Out Boy material. I definitely still go back to a lot of Fall Out Boy material, being the listener that I am in admiring Fall Out Boy. Let me know what you guys are feeling about the advanced work and what you're feeling about this older Fall Out Boy material. Thanks again for checking out the review, guys. Go ahead and subscribe, put the notifications on. We've got a bunch of content coming, we've got a bunch of reviews coming, and we've got a bunch of reactions coming. Let me know what you guys want to see, and consider donating to the channel as well. Thank you guys again. Shuby for Still Slaps. Fall Out Boy, Take This to Your Grave, classic album. Take it easy, guys.